always, I like to think that there's no one more passionate about project management and PMOs than I am, but I know that's not the case. But what I would like to do over the next hour is hopefully present some ideas on the concept of the business-driven PMO. And I hope that over the course of this hour, each and every one of you will at least come away with one or two, maybe three, little golden nuggets of information that you will say to yourself, I'm glad I attended this webinar. Today's webinar will talk about business-driven PMO from the aspect of PMO Acumen, as well as the aspect of having a quick look at some of the top mistakes, the top 5 mistakes that PMOs oftentimes make. Now, to start, by way of agenda, I would like to say that we'll first talk briefly about the perspectives on the traditional project management office by way of a short case study example, because this leads by way of transition to the discussion of what distinguishes a business-driven project management office, business-driven PMO, from other kinds of organizations that concern themselves with projects. So when we talk about the business-driven PMO, we'll be talking about a few foundational concepts, the concept of the purpose of the PMO, the concept of the project management triangle, and the concepts of managing projects, portfolios, and maturity. Now, you may have spotted the picture at the lower right. For those of you that recognize this picture, this is a picture of someone panning for gold. And one of the techniques in panning for gold is called agitation. That's where you agitate the debris that is in the pan, and with proper agitation, we separate debris from treasure. I like to use this picture because over the course of this presentation, some of you may be agitated, and a little bit of that is by design. So I don't mean to be taking pot shots at some of our traditional and well-established principles and well-established strategies for managing projects and managing PMOs, but I do want to introduce some business-driven concepts that very well may fly in the face of what we all know of as good PMO management and good project management. So let's talk about the case study. In this real-life case study example, a chief executive officer of a high-growth software company was experiencing the challenges of success. So these were good problems that the CEO was having. The company was doubling in size. New customers were signing up for this new technology. Existing customers were seeking to expand relationships and deploy the technology further in their organizations. Onboarding of new talented people was becoming challenging. And in response to the challenges, the growth challenges, the success challenges that this company was having, the CEO proposed to the leadership team the idea of a PMO. And all of the members of the leadership team responded favorably to the idea of a PMO. Now, in this company, they had no certified PMPs. They'd never had a PMO before. They engaged in the interviewing process, and they arrived at a short list of two very good candidates to be the PMO manager. One of the candidates had been a PMO manager before at 3 other companies, had a certification in project management, and was knowledgeable in people, process, tools kinds of things. The other candidate that they also liked had a very good working knowledge of the software industry, especially the mobile software application space, which this company played in. And the second candidate also had a very good past experience base in various positions like head of sales, marketing, business development, professional services. But this second candidate had never managed a PMO before and was not certified in project management. So who do you think they hired? The first candidate with the PMO experience and the certifications and the knowledge of people, process, and tools, or the second candidate? Well, as it so happened, they hired the first candidate, the candidate that had experience in what PMOs are all about. And in the first week, the first candidate met with the leadership team, and in the second week of being on the job, this PMO manager put forth his strategy for the PMO, which called for a people, processes, and tools coaching model PMO that would, in essence, staff a small PMO, develop a methodology for management of projects, would implement a project management and resource management tool. In this particular case, it happened to be Microsoft Project Server, a very fine tool, a tool that he had successfully implemented at 3 other companies. And this PMO manager also put forth a plan for training, to train a number of people in the basics of project management that participated in projects, both internal and external. And then also a training program to PMP certify the few hand-picked project managers that were full-time project managers, had project manager on their card, and that were streamed for PMP certification. So, as you can imagine, this is not a new PMO strategy. The idea of developing a people process tools and throwing some training is just about what all PMOs seem to do. But the question begs itself, what's likely to be the 6-month checkpoint after such a strategy has been advanced after merely only 2 weeks on the job? More specifically, at the 6-month checkpoint, were those business needs that led the CEO and the leadership team to enthusiastically pursue the idea of a PMO, were those business needs met? Well, the Vice President of Sales was unhappy with the PMO because the various efforts to get new projects in the pipeline, sales projects for professional services deployments, were taking too long to get underway because the PMO and the new process slowed that down. And from the Vice President of Sales perspective, this is revenue. So the Vice President of Sales was keen to double the project capacity because this would mean the ability to increase attainment against the revenue plan. Well, the Vice President of Professional Services was unhappy because his biggest pet peeve was the fact that after the sales had been concluded with clients and the statement of work had been signed off on and left in the hands of professional services to deliver, many times the sales account managers would, in response to customer requests, give in to additional scope of the deployment, yet without changing the schedule or the cost expectations, leaving professional services on the hook to deliver. The Vice President of Business Development was unhappy because he was never getting enough resources for his business development projects, and he had hoped that a new PMO would help with that, yet it didn't. The product development manager was unhappy because his key resources from time to time would get pulled away from product development to support the sales teams trying to sell a complex sale for which product development resources were needed to fill the gap between the as-is product and the future product roadmap of features not yet developed. And though these product development resources often helped sell the deal, pulling them off the product development schedule almost always resulted in a product development schedule plan that could not be met, yet the product development manager would never be given any slack for the plan. And the Chief Financial Officer, CIO, and CEO were equally concerned. The CFO was concerned that despite all the effort to date, he still could not forecast project-based revenue any better than he could before the PMO. And as half of this company's business revenue was professional services and support revenues, the CFO was very keen to have a better predictor of revenue recognition than the current as-is process was providing him. And the CIO and CEO are increasingly concerned in that in terms of having a holistic view of all the projects of the company, the transformational internal projects, the IT kinds of infrastructure projects, and most importantly, the customer-facing professional services projects, in terms of having a holistic view of all those projects, not to mention the resources and bandwidth and ability to meet the demand for all those projects, they felt they were far from that nirvana state of holistic PPM. So that was the 6-month checkpoint, a far cry different than what was hoped for at the initial onset of the PMO. And I suspect that many of you know, not that any of us have done this in our own PMOs, but many of you may know of a PMO or 2 or 3